Hello. In this tutorial, we are going to look at squat and some warm-ups to squat or malasana pose. And then we're also going to look at the balance pose half moon or Ardha Chandrasana pose. You might want to have some blocks and maybe a chair or a stool. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to warm up a little bit our hips. And I like to do a warm up where I'm balancing first. Bringing your hands to your hips, we're going to shift the body weight over, and then we're going to take the foot and just skim the surface of your mat. And then when that becomes easy, you could take it bigger and then maybe using your arms as counterbalance. So it's like a whole body joint warm up. You can flex and point the foot. You could roll your wrists and breathe. Ready to shift over to the other side. Foot comes down. This is one of many warm-ups you could do with your hips for these poses, your hips and your shoulders. And then if you're having troubles with this, one thing that you want to think about is finding a gaze point, a drishti. So you could look down on the ground and you really could challenge yourself here with maybe even losing balance, right? So learning how to fall is an important thing that we might explore in our practice, how to fall safely. Okay, warming up our joints, breathing, and then bring it back to center. Okay. We're going to do goddess pose, which is a nice opening of the external rotation of the thighs. Notice that my butt is tucked under, so my tail is tucked under. It's not sticking out. And so I bring my arms up, and then I send my tailbone down, and then back up. Inhaling up, exhaling down. From here, we could bring our elbows down to our thighs. And maybe you just want to hang out here for a while. This is a position where your butt is sticking out, but it's a good kind of a beginning squat. My chest is not in alignment, but I'm really working on a little bit of mobility in my hip flexors. So maybe this is where you want to stay. Option, this is one of my favorite things to do, is to shift over to one side and then to bring your body up on the ball of the foot of that side and then reach the arm up and then just shift to the other side. So maybe it's just you're up here. Maybe you're not coming all the way down, but you could work to getting to a point where you could come onto the ball of your foot and open up. Open up. Open up. Okay. So from here, I'm actually going to come down and into a seated position. And I want to introduce frog as an option for those of you who have a little bit of flexibility in your hips and want to get better at your squat pose. So coming onto all fours, you're going to walk your feet out, and then I'm going to flex my feet. So this is frog pose because my legs look like frog legs. If I'm looking at it from the side, frog pose, my knees are bent 90 degree, my ankles, my toes are towards my shins. And then wherever you are, just bringing maybe your elbows down. You could use a block here to place your elbows on, maybe even getting it a little bit wider. This is not a very comfortable pose, and you can really feel into the pubic symphysis, which connects the two pelvic bones, the two coxal bones at the front of your pelvis. So this might be something that you could begin to explore in preparation for squat or malasana. So frog pose is a good preparatory pose to deepen that squat pose. To come up, I bring my hands back up and then I walk the legs in. Now, I've recently discovered that squat pose on blocks is actually really wonderful. So I would recommend you could use a low stool, or you could actually, like if you have a kid's stool, or you could use books if you needed to. So however high you want to come up, you sit down on it. And then the nice thing about the blocks is that it is really effortless to sit with your back straight. So maybe just doing some of your daily activities from this position instead of sitting in a chair, right? So I could, maybe this might be a really good position to do some scrolling on my phone, right? Or to watch some TV, or to maybe even eat, right? I could practice this squat position. And you could bring your elbows into your knees, and your elbows press into your knees, and your knees press back. So that actually helps to lift you when you do full-on squat. So if I'm doing full-on squat, ultimately you want to have your feet flat on the ground, but you might be up here. That means we need to work on opening up your Achilles tendon. Okay, so ankle stretches are good. So my elbows press into my knees press back, and then that helps to lift my spine up. And I really want to engage the pelvic floor here, so it's almost like you're trying not to pee. And then those are like Kegels, so you could pulse them. So contracting the pelvic floor and then releasing and then pulsing it, that might be something you could do. That's really important in this pose to keep that constricted and tight. Okay, so let's bring our hands down. You could stand up and do a forward fold from here if you like. And then come up. So that's our Malasana pose. The other pose that we're going to look at is half moon. And half moon, it can be a challenging pose. It is really, really nice to do it against a wall, because if I'm doing it against a wall, then the wall helps to support me. But you could also do it with a chair. So what we want to do is we want to turn the supporting foot so that it is facing straight on the mat. What I was doing earlier when I was learning this pose, oftentimes I turn my foot at an angle, and that actually helped a lot because it gave me a little bit more stability. But you could try, if we're going to use the wall or the chair, you could try your foot straight. So the idea here is to balance, and then notice that this foot is, the hip is turned up, right? And I'm kind of externally rotating my foot a little bit, and I am then going to bring my arm up, and maybe I could balance here. I could look up to the sky. Flexing that top foot, the foot that's in the air, is very, very helpful for this. So this could be your half moon Ardha Chandrasana. Again, against a wall, you could lean back and line yourself up against the wall. It's awesome. Okay, bringing yourself back out. Let's try the other side. Make sure that your chair isn't not going to scoot out. And notice that I turned my foot in. Let's turn it back out. And then balancing, lifting, balancing. I need to be a little bit further away from my stool. Falling out. It's okay. Breathe. Flexing that back foot. Looking up towards the sky, finding something to gaze at. Okay. So this is how you begin with half moon. For more advanced half moons, you could use a block. So ultimately, you want to be able to bring your hand down to the ground, but the block is useful because it brings your hand up a little bit, right? So I can turn my foot out, I can bring my block to the ground on its highest setting, and then I could just lift my back leg and my arm. And I could just gaze down. I could turn my foot at a slight angle, which will help with stability. Ultimately, we want to be able to look up to the sky, so you have to shift your gaze quickly and find a gaze point up. So that is half moon on that side. Okay, let's try this on the other side. This is a challenging pose. Here. Gaze down, get yourself like between two planes of glass. Breathe. Look up. Find your gaze up. Feel into the wobble. And then bring it back down. Okay. So you could practice with the block. You can also do it just with your hand on the ground. Maybe shifting your gaze up towards the sky, flexing that back foot. Bring it back up. Yeah, other side. Finding your gaze down at first, maybe just holding it there, or shifting your gaze up towards the sky. Feel into the wobble, and then bring it back down. Okay, awesome. So that was a tutorial for Malasana and a tutorial for Half Moon, Ardha Chandrasana. Thank you.